Hello, I'm Haillee Odell, and I will be reading Christina Benjamin's Truth, Chapter 12. I hope you like it. I laid awake for what seemed like an eternity before I heard Nova's voice. It hit me like a lightning bolt, sending a current of excitement tingling through my whole body. This was it. Time to get Sparrow and Journey and go. Sparrow, it's time. Okay, what do we do? I'm going to climb out the window, and once I'm clear, you can follow one at a time. Okay, good luck. You too. I sat up slowly and scanned the room like last time. No one stirred. I slipped off my nightshirt and stuffed it under my pillow. Still no movement in the room. I turned towards the window and took a deep breath, giving it a good push at the bottom pane. This time I was able to push it open far enough to slip out in one attempt. I still landed with a bit of a thud, but was more graceful than last time. I scooted over to the right of the window, waiting for Sparrow and Journey to appear. It seemed like it was taking too long. I was holding my breath when suddenly Sparrow slipped out of the window. She was so silent and graceful that she didn't even interrupt the insect's night song. I was instantly jealous. She crawled over to me just in time to avoid being crushed by Journey. Even he managed to be stealthier than me. I really needed to work on that. Okay, follow me, I said. I pushed my way through the bushes to the clearing ahead, where I stood to check that the coast was clear. It looked as calm as it had last night, so I motioned for them to follow me, and I took off at a run across the field. I ran all the way to the forest line without stopping. Once there, I turned to look for Sparrow and Journey. They were a good ways behind me still when I felt Nova grab me and jerk me in beyond the tree line. Nova, shh, we've got company. Yeah, about that. What did you do, Tippy? Don't be mad, I asked them to come. And before he could scold me, I slipped out of his hold and waved them over to me. Sparrow was out of breath and looked nervous. What are we doing here? We're meeting Nova, and right on cue, he waltzed out of the forest calmly. Well, now that the gang's all here, he said, glaring at me. Shall we? He said, motioning towards the forest. Come on, I said to Sparrow and Journey. We need to get under cover. We followed Nova and walked silently for a while into the depths of the dark forest. I could feel the tension among our little group. Nova was definitely a little pissed I had just sprung Sparrow and Journey on him. And Sparrow and Journey seemed on edge about being in the forest. Finally, Nova stopped and produced his flame, eerily light in our faces. Well, I'm sorry, guys. If I'd known we were having a party, I would have been a bit more prepared, said Nova, directing his sarcasm at me. Okay, I'm sorry I didn't tell you they were coming, but it's not exactly like we had the time to discuss these things at the center, and I figured this would be the best opportunity for us to learn from each other. Sparrow has already taught me so many things today, and if we all put our heads together, I bet we can get me up to speed even faster. Everyone just looked around at each other in the little circle we had formed. Come on, you guys, I really want to figure out my powers and learn how to use them. You all know we'll accomplish more together, I pleaded. After a long pause, Nova took a deep breath and turned to Sparrow. What did you teach her? He said accusingly. What did you teach her? She fired back. I asked you first, Nova said, taking a step towards her. Before I could try to intervene, Journey had placed himself in front of Sparrow, blocking Nova's path to her. There was something about the way his amber eyes glowed almost red in Nova's firelight that stopped him in his tracks. I think he could have stopped a charging elephant with how intimidating he looked right then. His jaw was set and his shoulders were squared, posed to attack if necessary. I couldn't even catch a glimpse of Sparrow behind his hulking frame. I had to do something to defuse the situation and fast. I started by trying to push my way between them, but they seemed oblivious to me. Nova, please, it's fine. They're on our side. Journey, we're all on the same side. Guys, please. No response. They both stood there, squared off, waiting for one of them to make a false move. I was so angry. This was not at all what I wanted to happen. I needed some way to break this standoff before something horrible happened. I wedged my way between them and was preparing to try to produce my orb, but something unexpected happened. I had produced light, but it wasn't in the form of my little bouncing orb this time. This time, my whole hand was glowing, and so was my arm for that matter. My whole body was glowing. It looked like my skin was bursting from the inside out with light. It was pulsing through every pore in my body, flowing out of me effortlessly. I turned my palm over and back, watching the light reflect off the forest around me. It looked like gazing up at the sun from under the clear blue waters of the sea. Light was bouncing and dancing around me. I caught sight of Nova and Journey, who had now backed more than a few feet away from each other. It had worked. This hadn't been my plan, but it had the desired effect anyway. I sighed with relief, and my light instantly retreated back within as I lowered my arms. "What was that?" exclaimed Sparrow. "I don't know, but it was pretty cool, huh?" I said, smiling. "How did you do that?" Nova asked. "I'm not sure, but I was trying to produce my orb, but that happened instead." "Okay, remember what we said about triggers? What were you thinking about right before you started, well, glowing, I guess?" "I was just angry at you all for being so pig-headed, and I felt frustrated and desperate to stop you two from getting into a useless fight." "Good, so it was emotions again. Anger again, mixed with frustration and desperation. You need to remember these triggers, Tippy. You should write them in your journal," piped in Sparrow. "In her what?" Nova asked. "Oh, that's a great idea, Sparrow," I said, smiling at her. I turned to face Nova. "That's what I've been trying to tell you. Sparrow is helping me with this, too. She showed me how to keep a journal about all the new powers I discover. I can write the triggers that cause them so I can keep better track of how all this works. It's been helping me figure out how everything works, and I can write down all my questions." "Do you really think that's such a good idea for her to write down all her secrets?" Nova said to Sparrow. "I taught her how to enchant it so that no one else can read it." "It's so cool, Nova. I just tell it to restore when I'm done writing, and everything disappears, and then I say reveal, and it all comes back." Nova looked impressed. "You're a healer?" he asked Sparrow. She nodded. "That's impressive. I've never met one before. See, this is what I mean. We can learn so much from each other." "And I think she's a parallel," Sparrow said, gesturing to me. "Really? That would make a lot of sense, actually," Nova said. "She's picked up everything I've shown her really quickly." "Exactly. I showed her how to use my healing power on the gems in the rubble pile and on the journal, and she got it on the first try." "Yes, and I showed her how to produce my flame, and she ended up almost setting the whole forest on fire with her light source. And we all just saw her little glowing trick. Don't forget about the whole mind reading and telepathy, too," I chimed in. They both turned and looked at me like they had forgotten I was there. Then Nova smiled at Sparrow and said, "Shall we?" "Why not? I bet you can do it." "You're on," he said, shaking her hand. "Hey, are you guys telepathing about me? Not fair." "We have a little test for you, Tippy. Sparrow's going to show you something, and we want to see if you can do it. I want to test this parallel theory. Can you give us a little more light?" "Sure," I said with a smile. I produced an orb this time and grew it to about the size of a watermelon. I watched it hover above my hands and decided to try something. I willed it to stay afloat while I backed away from it, and it worked. It bobbed slightly suspended about 4 feet above the forest floor. I lifted my hands, still concentrated on the orb, and it lifted higher off the ground. Once it reached a good height to illuminate a large enough area of the forest for us, I commanded it to stay. When it complied, I smiled and wiped my hands back and forth matter-of-factly. "How's that?" I said. "Let's not get cocky just yet, Tippy," Nova said. He was smiling too. "Okay, Sparrow, go for it." We all turned our attention to her as she broke into a run. She was heading straight towards a large tree, and I started to worry she was about to smash into it when she took a step off its mossy trunk and propelled herself upwards. She was bounding diagonally off the tree, soaring between them effortlessly. She looked like the monkeys that traveled effortlessly through the forest canopies. She wasn't exactly flying, more like gliding and floating between wide expanses that would have been impossible for a normal human. I was intrigued and in awe of Sparrow's grace. I wanted to do it too, and that's when I remembered this was a test to see if I could. "Well, here goes nothing," I thought as I broke into a run towards the same tree that Sparrow had vaulted off of. It worked. I was soaring, bounding higher and higher into the treetop. I couldn't believe I was doing it. I didn't know how I was doing it, but my body seemed to take over like it was the most natural thing in the world for me to be bouncing from tree to tree, clearing impossible gaps. I landed on a precarious limb and steadied myself, pausing for a moment to find Sparrow. It was hard to see so high up here. My orb looked about the size of an apple, so far low. I needed more light.
I produced another oar and let it float in front of me. Then I smiled, having a brilliant idea. I jumped off and headed for another tree, producing oars as I went, leaving a trail of bouncing balls of light behind me. This quickly left my playground, and I found Sparrow bounding to a tree below me. I quickly set off to catch her and landed on the same limb as she did simultaneously. At last, we both started giggling at each other, and Sparrow gave me a big hug. You did it. You were amazing. I can't believe I did. That was so much fun. Come, let's go down and see how the boys are, she smiled. I went down to them, still laughing and smiling. So I said, okay, I'm impressed. Me too, said Jeremy. It was a huge compliment from him. I rarely heard speak at all. As I said, it was so much fun. Oh wow, look at my legs. We all turned our head back, admiring the trails I strung up among trees. They reminded me of the stars in the night sky that were blocked out by the thick vegetation of the dark forest. They twinkled really high up heads, sighed, reveling in the idea of the creative season. New Year was a great innocence. Well, maybe we have our own year go out here now that we can do no. For me, I don't have to sign that. First, I feel just your speech path. Future housing to useful for and when involved